Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone. And thank you so much for tuning in to Around the NFL, presented by FTFN Network. My name is Matthew Hadawani, lead writer at FTFNnetwork.com. And I'm joined, as always, by my fantastic co-host, Nick Gardner. Nick, how are you doing today, buddy?
Good, man. It's another, say this every week, it's another good weekend of football. I'm just glad COVID's kind of staying out of it. We're able to get the games in. We're not having too many issues. It's good. It's been good so far. I'm excited to be here again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my team, the Bills, had a little bit of a hit by COVID. You know, we lost our tight end room. We had, I think it was 4 tight ends who were out due to contact tracing, but because Tyler Croft was in the hospital with his wife, they were delivering a baby. Congratulations to him. He was actually able to play.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of chat on Twitter saying our starting tight end Dawson Knox finally caught something, which was very, very insensitive. But yeah, I mean, I'm okay. You know, we squeaked out a win against the Jets. Never seen so many field goals before in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, hey, you know what? Just like a fantasy, a win's a win, right?
A win is a win, man. My Ravens were on a bye this week, so I was kind of chilling. We got 6-0 Pittsburgh coming to town, so we're going to get into that in a little bit. But that's going to be a good one. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game. And we got a little bit of housekeeping news to get to here. So we have a little bit of a structure change when it comes to the show. We're going to try and be more of a preview show rather than a recap, but we're still going to run down some of the top headlines in the NFL. But what you're going to get from us now is a little bit more of an in-depth preview of games. We have picked 3 games. We're going to try and stick to around 3 or 4 games that we think are really worth talking about because as we've been on a lot of times, Thursday night football is really nothing to talk about recently. But yeah, we have some storylines to get to, so we'll kind of cover those right now. Obviously, the biggest of the week is that Odell Beckham done for the season with an ACL tear. And I saw that play in real time. I had no idea it was as bad as it is.
Mm-hmm. It looked a little awkward. Usually when you see an ACL tear, it's, you know, you see the slow-mo replay on Twitter or the zoomed-in replay, and you're like, ooh, that's nasty. This one, it just looked awkward. It didn't really look that gruesome. It didn't, you know, I'm not a doctor, so, you know, a tear is a tear, no matter how you slice it, like whether it's nasty or not. It didn't look, it's not one of those things where you see and you're like, oh, your knee's not supposed to bend that way. You know, It looked a little awkward, like he landed. Looked like he planted and it kind of tweaked quickly, and then, you know, he popped up and that was that. There's been a lot of complaints about the turf and whatnot. People are blowing out their knees. It's you know, just look at the last few weeks that we've done the recaps. Seems like we're going through injuries every single week. Yeah. Personally, when I played, I liked playing on turf, but I mean, I wasn't playing at the speed and the physicality that these guys are. So I can imagine how your cleat gets stuck very quickly and you're making all these different moves. It's concerning, and I think the NFL should look at it, but I don't know, at the end of the day, what do you, like, you're going to have to rip up the turf, I guess, and start planting grass. The grass fields are always a lot easier to play on, I find. But it sucks. And that, like, there's a whole different path we can go down with the Browns if you know, if they're going to end up trading Odell. You know, he's got I don't know exactly what his numbers are, but I know he has an injury guarantee of about, like, $12 million if they don't trade him by a certain date or something like that. And frankly, I think it depends on how the Browns play down the stretch. Do they play well without Odell? Do they start spreading the ball around, becoming more unpredictable? You know, there's kind of felt like they had to force the ball to Odell a little bit just to use him because he's such a dynamic talent. And, you know, since we're sitting here, I'm going to start the campaign for Odell to go to Green Bay.
Yeah, I would fully agree with that. And I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that wide receiver room kind of steps up. I mean, Jarvis Landry was, you know, he was the number 1 in Miami for years on end, and he's still a very, very good receiver. And I feel he's still kind of low-key number 1 there too, just because if they keep forcing it to Odell, defenses are going to catch on. So it's going to be interesting to see how he steps up. And, you know, Baker Mayfield has in 2 consecutive weeks gone on to a really, really, really bad start. So seeing how he rebounds and how the Browns rebound will be really interesting. Moving on to another wide receiver in the news, Antonio Brown. I just got back from the NO. I'm sorry. He signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That offense goes from potent to straight diesel fumes. that place is going to be that's touchdown central, because that offense is just going to get better and better as Brown kind of accumulates himself into the offense. But it was really interesting to see what head coach Bruce Arians said about the situation. He was basically like, yeah, if you're not a team player, you're out of here. Obviously, we know what kind of a character Antonio Brown is. He still has that sexual assault case that is still kind of unraveling itself. So, I mean, we talk about fantasy a lot on this. This is going to be either boom or bust.
If you're going to spring that on me, that's a tough one. It depends a lot on his character, and I'm not going to give you a straight answer. I'm going to give you a nice long-winded answer. First, I don't know. For me personally, I just have a zero tolerance for people that, do what he did. And I don't think they should get another chance to be in the NFL. That's my personal opinion.
I fully agree with you.
Kareem Hunts of the world, the Ray Rices of the world, especially when it's that egregious, it's I don't know, blows my mind that they get another chance.
Documented. It's not like it was just one event where when he was in Oakland, he gets frostbite on his feet. This is a sexual assault case, man.
Yeah. And listen, I don't know the whole legality of it. I don't think he's been charged yet, but what other place on earth do you have the ability to do that? I can't really think of any. So they always background check.
If I'm working an office job and my employer finds that I have a sexual assault case pending against me, you think I'm ever going to go again?
Yeah. But this is the world we live in, so we're going to stick to football. In terms of football, I don't think it can hurt them. I mean, listen, if Bruce Arians is going to stick to what he said in that press conference about, we're focused on winning. If you're not focused on winning, then get out. If he's going to live by his word, then I like the move. Because, like you said, Mike Evans didn't see the ball until the fourth quarter, and they won by 25. And I forget who else you mentioned. Mentioned somebody else that didn't have a great game, but they won by 25 because they just care about winning. If Antonio Brown's like that, then sure, because he's just another weapon. Antonio Brown was the best receiver in the league for many years, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So if he's committed in that sense, then I'm with it. I like the move. And listen, I don't know how they're going to use him, exactly what, but I mean, what do you have? You have Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin,
Scotty Miller.
You can go 3-by-1, running back in the backfield with Brady.
You can go 4 wide too.
Yeah, you can even go 4 wide. Yeah, Scotty Miller if you want. Tyler Johnson's good. They have weapons galore over there.
Gronkowski.
So they can, Gronk. Yeah, they can do. We didn't even mention Cameron Brate. I mean,
Carl Jones.
They can do whatever they want with whoever they want. Is Antonio Brown going to start going for 8 catches and 100 yards and 2 touchdowns? No, not in my opinion, at least. I don't think so. He might have a game here or there, but I don't think so. Can he get you 4 catches for 50 yards and be a nuisance to the defense? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how he plays. If he's going to play this week, I'm not 100% sure. I think
he can't play his first game
week 9, right?
Against the Saints, which is a good divisional game for him to kind of test the waters of that team, just because he still has a league-mandated suspension that he has to finish.
Yeah. So whenever that happens, it happens. I think this is more of a playoff kind of acquisition, kind of get him started going later in the year. I don't think he's going to go to week 9 and
No.
box off.
No.
I'd be surprised if he sees over 20, 25 snaps on offense. But once start getting to week 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and the Bucs are trying to make a playoff push and trying to get seeding positions and whatnot, I think he could play a pretty big factor.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works on. Some other injuries that we have to go to, Kenyan Drake and Jeff Wilson, both to miss multiple games. And those are both big hits for the respective teams. I mean, the Cardinals have been one of the more electric teams to watch this season. Kyler Murray really kind of coming to his own and being a really, really a top quarterback in the NFL this season.
Yeah, he's I don't want to use the word elite because he's not there yet, but he's on his way.
Mm-hmm.
Kenyan Drake is I don't think it's a huge loss. I personally think they are more effective with Chase Edmonds on the field. I think Edmonds fits their offense better. I know they put the transition tag on Kenyan Drake, so they actually liked him coming into this year, as did I. I took him in the second round of fantasy. He hasn't done squat for me, not to be that guy, but he was supposed to be the lead back. They kind of ended up splitting carries a little bit. Not necessarily splitting carries or percentage of snaps, but it just felt the eyeball test when you watch Chase Edmonds on the field. It just seems like he's more effective. I know he's a better pass catcher than Kenyan Drake, or they at least used him as a better pass catcher. So I think he'll fit well. I know they like kind of rotating back, so they might have to find another one to slide into that RB2 spot, if you will. I don't think Edmonds is going to be a straight workhorse, but that's big. Jeff Wilson, the Niners just somehow keep churning out running backs. It's just absurd what they do, and it's unfortunate how much they get hurt. Seems like they're on their 4th or 5th running back this year, so they'll still run the ball. They'll run their counters, their sweeps, their jet sweep, like all that good action counter and everything like that. So I think the Niners will be fine. I'm not too worried. Hopefully they all get healthy. I don't want nobody to be hurt, but as a team, I don't think the Niners will be hurt that much.
Yeah, it's interesting. We were talking off show about this, but it's very fascinating to see how the NFL has shifted to a running back by committee type of offense. I mean, you look at, back in the days, you have those like elite running backs like like Barry Sanders and all of these guys who were like every down backs. But now, you have your pass catching back, you have your third down back, you have your power back, you have your speed back. It's I don't want to take up a whole lot of this because we really have to get to some other stuff here, but why would you pay a running back, lock a running back up to a long-term contract?
I was going to say, this is a much deeper conversation than we have time for, but I'll give it a quick roundabout answer. It's an economic situation.
Yep.
The NFL has a salary cap. You need to fit people under the salary cap, and where can you get the most value is the most important, because it's also, back then it wasn't an air raid passing game as it is now. It is air raid now. Like, your quarterback is your most important player. Before, you didn't have to have a stellar quarterback. Now you pretty much do, right? And the whole idea of having guys under their rookie deals and maximizing cap value and space and all that kind of stuff, because it's one thing to trade for a guy, but it's another thing to fit him under your cap. So, in running backs, they always say lose their value in the second half of their careers, which is true and false. I don't really fully believe that.
We talk early.
Yeah, there's, for every Adrian Peterson, there's a Todd Gurley, right? So you don't want to lock yourself up to somebody who, may not pan out, if you will. And at the end of the day, they work in a brutal position. I mean, they get hit every play. So even if they're not, like, how often does a running back really not make contact with somebody on a play? So
even when he's in pass protection.
Exactly. That's what I mean. So it's tough. There is still the occasional workhorse, the Dalvin Cooks, the Ezekiel Elliott's, Saquon Barkley's. But then again, like, look if Saquon was on a big contract. He's hurt. He's out for the year, right? And that's more common than not, sadly, right? So it's difficult. If I was a GM, I would honestly probably do the same thing, because look at the Niners. All you need is, basically, long story short, because we need to get going, is you need a run game. You don't need a running back.
I agree.
So that's all you need to do. Because if you look at the Niners, they don't have a specific running back. They tried, like, they have like 4 or 5, but they always have a run game. As long as you have a run game, that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's carrying the ball.
The Rams were successful doing that last night, rotating all their backs.
Yeah, because you just need a run game, especially with the Rams, their offense. You just need a run game to set up your play action, set up your all your misdirections and whatnot. But you don't necessarily need a running back, right? Like, they went from playing Todd Gurley, they let him go, and they're just as effective now. They're one of the better teams in the NFC, right? And they have 3 guys for, I don't know their contracts, but probably under like $5 or $6 million. And Todd Gurley's getting what? What's he getting from I think he's getting like 7 to 10 from the Falcons or something.
Yeah, and we'll get to Todd Gurley.
That's a perfect example, right? So,
and
that's an economic situation.
Todd Gurley's coming up in our next segment here, the Hero at Zero. I have a very off-the-board pick for my Hero of the Week. I took Johnny Hecker, the punter for the Los Angeles Rams. And the only time you talk about a special teams player is if he makes a really, really bad play. Like, if he shanks a kick to win the game. But Johnny Hecker was the definition of a specialist last night. He completely flipped the field, pinned the Bears offense down inside their own 15. I think it was like 3 or 4 separate times.
I can remember at least 4 times, if not more.
He was a weapon last night.
He was fantastic.
He was really good, and he put that Bears offense, who, first of all, the Chicago Bears were frauds at 5-1 before that game. They're frauds. He pinned that offense deep in their own territory, and he deserves some shout out. I saw after Sean McVay gave him player of the game. I think it was fully deserved. Hecker played it phenomenal. My zero of the week is my Buffalo Bills, man. How do you not score a touchdown against the Jets?
That is a good question.
How do you not score a touchdown against the Jets?
That is a fairly sorry defense not to be,
And I'm just going to leave it at that. You got to score touchdowns.
You got to score touchdowns to win, man. I agree with you. They haven't looked great the last couple of weeks. I forget who they played the week before. Oh, Tennessee. No. Who did they play last week?
We played the Chiefs. Yeah.
Chiefs, and then the Tennessee game too. You guys haven't looked great in about 3 weeks.
No, we've taken a big fall from grace from that Raiders game. That was probably the most complete game I've seen. Well, we've never blown out a team. Like even the game against the Jets and the Dolphins, those are both pretty close. And then in the Rams game, we had to claw back. But
league blew it, and you had to, yep.
We're gonna get to the Bills Patriots preview here in a little bit. We'll kind of talk more about that. But yeah, man, you said you would take the Bills if you were a betting man.
Yep.
I don't know about that.
I don't know, man. 3.5. I think the line's at 3.5 right now. I think that's pretty good value. I can see them winning by a touchdown. I don't. How do I say this? I think it honestly has to do more with New England than it does Buffalo.
Yeah, and we'll touch on that when we get to it.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Who did you have?
Go ahead.
You want to do it now?
No. We gotta do Rams Dolphins first.
You gotta do your hero zero. What are you talking about?
Oh, my mistake. Sorry, I gotta do my hero. Sorry. I skipped the run. Sorry.
New run.
Yeah, sorry. I thought I went for the hero. Sorry. My apologies. My hero of the week. Sorry, guys. My hero of the week, Davante Adams. So I work at Sportsnet here in Toronto, and I was doing the Packers-Texans game. And it is just very apparent to me that Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams are on a different level than everybody else.
Yeah.
Davante Adams is a top 5 receiver in the league, and honestly, it's not a question to me. He is one of the best route runners, if not the best route runner in the league, maybe with Stephon Diggs and Keenan Allen. The way they just have a sixth sense to get to each other is ridiculous. He went for 13 catches, 196 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It was a career-high 196 yards. And it just seemed like no matter what Houston did, which, first of all, they didn't do much because they never doubled him, which was just mind-blowing.
How do you not?
He just ate everybody who went against him. And it was remarkable. Like, it was so obvious where they were going every single passing play pretty much. And they couldn't do squat about it. So there's that. And my zero of the week is Todd Gurley. If we had B-roll, it'd be great to roll right now because it was like 1 minute and 22 seconds left, and the Falcons were on their own, the Detroit 15 to 12 yard line, somewhere in there. And all they had to do was just run the ball a little bit, stay out of the end zone, let the clock tick down, kick a field goal at the end of the game because they were down, I think, 1 or 2 or something.
Yeah, they were down by 1.
Instead, Todd Gurley runs, and he tries to stop before the end zone, falls into the end zone, so they score a touchdown, leaving enough time for Matthew Stafford to go down the end of the field.
That was a drive.
And score. That was unbelievable. His ball to Kenny Golladay was an elite throw and an elite catch.
That was a drive.
And, yeah, Matthew Stafford's underrated, man. Absolutely underrated.
They haven't locked up Kenny Golladay long term yet, which I find interesting.
That's a big deal to me. You can't let Kenny Golladay walk. He's a good receiver. He is good. Very good.
He was really, really good. Moving on here, we're going to get to our preview part of the show. First game we're going to touch on here is the Rams versus the Dolphins. The Rams took care of the Bears pretty easily on Monday Night Football. The only touchdown that the Bears had was on defense. Jalen Ramsey on the Rams looked very, very good, and I touched on Johnny Hekker. This is going to mark the turn of the tide in Miami. Tua Tagovailoa officially named the starter for the Dolphins as Ryan Fitzpatrick. The broken-hearted Ryan Fitzpatrick finds a very familiar spot on the bench. And personally, I watched Ryan Fitzpatrick for years on the Buffalo Bills. I know what kind of quarterback he is. More importantly, I know what kind of person he is. And he's always kind of been one of those seat fillers to the heir apparent, and really seeing him speak out about how upset he is and how heartbroken he is. You really don't see that from a journeyman quarterback because, they know their role. So it's going to be interesting to see how this team responds.
Yeah. I'll take it from the Tua point of view. The Rams looked good last night, or on Monday night, I should say. They played well. They played solid. The offense looked sharp, which I expect. The defense looked very good. Johnny Hecker, like you said, was a weapon that helped them out. Their secondary is underrated, so I think they're actually very good, which will make it tough for Tua.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of questions that were kind of thrown around. Why now? Why Ryan? The Dolphins are 3-3. They're like a game out of a playoff or out of the lead, I think, in the AFC East. So why now? And there's a couple of folds that can answer that question. And I think it's about what you're going to get from the quarterback position. Because when you play Ryan Fitzpatrick, you know what you're going to get.
Yep.
And your ceiling, like his ceiling is capped.
He's right.
His floor is high, but his ceiling is capped. You're not going to win a playoff game with Ryan Fitzpatrick, probably. More likely than not.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a potential to win a Super Bowl with Tua. And listen, it may not be this year, but you weren't going to win a Super Bowl this year with Ryan Fitzpatrick anyways. So, I know Dolphins fans that want to compete or, saying why now, or even just mainstream people are why now. It doesn't make much sense. I don't hate it. The Rams aren't a perfect matchup. But you're playing in the NFL. Nobody's a perfect matchup.
Yeah.
Right? You give the kid a bye week to prepare, and then so basically give him 2 weeks to prepare for his first start. Like really dive into tape. He could probably watch the tape from last night or from Monday night, right? And really break down this defense and give him a chance to prepare. And then you don't know what his ceiling is. Like Tua was supposed to be the number 1 overall pick if he didn't break his hip. I think people kind of forget that, right? Like it's not like he's switching in for, like Justin Herbert, who was a big question mark, who's fantastic, but was a big question mark before this year, or Jordan Love or something. Like Tua was as sure as a sure thing could be before he broke his hip, right? And they have a good offense. They have a decent offensive line. They have some talent on the outside. Like I would like to see what Tua could do, and I think it's a good time to do it because he has 2 weeks to get ready. And if everything blows up in his face, at least as an organization on a macro level, like if you want to do macro on a micro level for this year, I think he gives you a better chance to get to the playoffs and maybe not get to the playoffs, but win a playoff game.
Well, we do have expanded playoffs.
Exactly.
Could be definitely something to take.
There's a bigger chance. Tua is like buying a more volatile stock because there's a good chance that he could not play well, but there's also a good chance that he could play well.
Mm-hmm.
And at least Ryan Fitzpatrick is like for all the financial people, it's like a bond. Like what you're going to get. Your return's going to be solid. It's from the government. Like it's solid, right? Like what you're going to get, but it won't blow your bank account away, but it won't put you in the red.
Yeah.
With Tua, you don't know what it's going to do exactly on a micro level this season, but long term, he is your quarterback of the future. You spent the 5th overall pick on him. You have to play him, and I like the idea of giving him 2 weeks to prepare and kind of get his mental ready, if that makes sense.
I think there's 2 factors that went into this. I could be wrong on the first one. I think that the Dolphins had their bye week changed because of all of the games that have been postponed. And
I think that's true.
I could be wrong. I think their bye week was scheduled to be week 11, but I believe it was moved to week 7. I can fact check that later, but I think that's right. And I think the second factor,
something like that. I think it got moved. You're right.
I think the second factor why they thought he was ready to make this move is because they ran the same play that he broke his hip at Alabama. They ran that exact same play, and he showed how this is a very like ESPN draft day type of analysis, but his hips looked oily. Like he had that kind of rock in his lower body, and I think that's when they kind of saw that this kid's ready to go.
You're talking about the 2 snaps or the couple of snaps that he took last week?
Yeah. But also, no, mind you, they see this kid in practice every day.
I was gonna say, I don't think that the game last week where we went 2 for 2 for 7 yards really changed anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they saw him in practice, and that's where he gets most of his reps, and he looks healthy. Mm-hmm. I think he just looks healthy and he's ready enough. And Ryan Fitzpatrick did his job. They kept him in. The Dolphins are in a position to compete, right? And I don't know. And also on top of that, Ryan Fitzpatrick has a notorious track record of playing well for the first half.
We're going to start talking about the Ryan Fitzpatrick cycle again because I love that.
He has a notorious track record of playing well and then playing poorly down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
So you got what you can squeeze out. You can squeeze all you can out of the lemon, and you got to move on to the next one.
Yep. And it'll be interesting to see if the Dallas Cowboys take a run at Ryan Fitzpatrick now that their quarterback room is just absolutely decimated. And we'll move on to our next game here. But I mean, I don't know how Jerry Jones sits at the table with Dak Prescott and doesn't offer him a good fat contract now.
That's a whole another conversation. We do not have time for that right now. That's that.
Moving on here to our next preview game, Buffalo Bills versus New England Patriots. We previewed this one a little bit at the beginning, but I mean, Cam Newton, big fall from grace in the first couple of weeks of the season, throws 3 interceptions. And it's going to be interesting to see how this one works out. I mean, we've kind of hammered on the Buffalo Bills and you know what's happening in that team, what's happening with that defense. Defense looked like they threw a couple Band-Aids on him against the Jets. Only allowed, I believe it was -4 yards in the second half. But we let Father Time Frank Gore run all over us in the first half. So got Matt Milano back, Tremaine Edmonds, who is, I believe he's still playing with an injury. Hasn't been like the 100+ tackler that we've seen him in previous seasons. Levi Wallace still on IR. This defense kind of scares me, and then you don't score a touchdown against the Jets. This one, I was nervous last week. I'm really nervous this week.
Really? That kind of surprises me. I mean, the only reason I am a little bit nervous for you is because I know Bill Belichick and what he is capable of, and whenever you bet against Bill Belichick or play against Bill Belichick, it just makes you nervous because you never know what's coming up his sleeve. Mm-hmm. While you're talking, I pulled up the stats for Cam Newton. He was 9 of 15 for 98 yards and 3 picks last week.
That's tough.
It's a Niners defense that hasn't been great. You know, they were fantastic last year. They've been decimated by injuries. They haven't been the same team. I don't even think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't even think Richard Sherman's back. I don't see him on the stat sheet, so I'm going to assume he's not back. So, I mean, they don't have a vaunted pass rush. Fred Warner's amazing at middle linebacker, one of the most underrated players in the NFL. They don't have a fantastic secondary, and Cam Newton doesn't even throw for 100 yards and throws 3 picks. Yeah, like that is bad. That is concerning. And he got pulled in the third quarter, so that is very concerning. They lost 33-6. I didn't watch the game, so I don't know 100% how the field position was set up and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about how little weapons they have in New England.
That can't be.
I think Buffalo has a solid enough defense to get it done against New England. It's just one of those things where it's kind of like the Steelers and Browns, where can you get over the hump? Like if Buffalo's legit, they need to win this game.
Yes.
Right? Like they need to say, okay, we're not playing well. We haven't played well the last couple of weeks. Let's have a good week of practice. Let's rectify our demons, if you will, against the Patriots. Let's officially, crown ourselves as the kings of the AFC East kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and
you could not have New England coming off a worse game, which is why I'm partially scared, but you got to kick them while they're down. If you are an elite team, like people in Buffalo, like you're a fan, like people in Buffalo think that the Bills are, you need to win this game and win it handily. I know the spread's 3.5, and I said that I would bet on it, and you said, I don't know. If you were an elite team, and I do think Buffalo is good enough, I think with Stephon Diggs, they are good enough to do that, and Josh Allen's progressed enough. Mm-hmm. You need to win this game by more than 4 points.
Yeah, and I think Josh quietly threw for 300 yards against the Jets. He had a touchdown. It was nullified by an illegal formation. Beautiful, beautiful throw, but you got to score touchdowns, man. The run game has been absolutely atrocious. Devin Singletary, and you spent a third-round pick on Zach Moss, and it's just the running back room is just a complete disaster.
Yeah, Josh Allen was I'm looking at the stats here, by the way. Josh Allen was your leading rusher at 61 yards.
Yep.
And that is a good sign is Zach Moss averaged 6.7 yards per carry. So that's a good sign. I like the way he runs. He runs hard. I think he fits your scheme.
Hard runner.
I think he fits your scheme well. I'm not going to lie. Like I would like to see Zach Moss as a first and second down, and then Devin Singletary as your third down back.
Yeah, Singletary reminds me a lot of LaShawn McCoy and kind of the way he runs, where he's super, super shifty. It almost looks like he's on skates. But it's just that run game has not been able to get going at all. And you need the run game to set up the play action to set up Stephon Diggs. Yeah. So We saw that a lot in weeks 1 to 3, but I don't know what's happening. The offense is really, really. I mean, Josh Allen was in the MVP talk for a couple of weeks, and now he's
back on. Yeah.
Where is that? Where is that? I mean, I was over here hammering him, saying how unreal he was playing, but now he's looking like rookie season all over again. So, I've hammered on this before, but I'm nervous for this game.
Seems like you're nervous for every game, though.
That's being a Bills fan, baby. That's what it's like. That's what it's like. You can come back and beat the Rams and then get absolutely mollywopped by the Chiefs. And, you just got to put what does Drake say in that music video? And he's like, I've had a rough stretch, but I just got to have a warrior spirit. That's basically, that's what being a Bills fan is like, man.
That was a good one. I'll give you that one. Yeah, well, we'll see. The Bills, people are claiming the Bills elite. I believe they're good. I don't know if they're elite. I think they're good, but I think they can win this game.
It's just the life of a Bills fan, man. It's just, you got to stay right here. You can't get too high, you can't get too low, because if you get high, you get disappointed, and if you're lower, you jump through tables, and it's tough, man. We're gonna move on here. Steelers versus Ravens. Let's talk about your favorite team, man. You're going against the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers, who their defense is looking chef's kiss fantastic recently.
Yeah, the Steelers are solid. Everybody expected them to be good this year. I don't think anybody expected them to be this good. I don't have their schedule right in front of me. I'll pull it up as I'm speaking. But am I fully sold on them? I don't know. I have to watch them this week. I'll take this. Let's just see the Steelers schedule here first.
I believe they had their closest game of the season against the Titans.
They have beaten the Giants, the Broncos, the Texans. Okay. The Eagles. Okay. The Browns. That was a pretty big win, 38-7. I'll give them that. And then they just beat the Titans. So that was a good win. I'll give them the Titans.
I have this question for you here.
Yes.
If the NFL was the same playoff rundown as college football, where you have your top 25 teams, based on the opponents that the Pittsburgh Steelers have played, would they be a playoff team right now? Would they be ranked in like that top 6?
Top 6?
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers are a top 6 team in the league, yeah. I would say that for sure. You can't, at the end of the day, they're 6-0. You can't disrespect them like that. Are they 1 or 2? Not in my opinion. I think they'd be in the back half.
That's what I was trying to get to here.
They'd be in the back half of that top 6. If it was a top 4, I don't think I would put them in. Maybe they'd make it in at 4. Personally, I think the Seahawks are better. I think the Ravens are better. I think the Chiefs are better.
Yep.
I have to go through the rest of the schedule or the standings, but off the top of my head, that's what I can think. Titans, no. Philly, no. Maybe not the Packers. Yeah, maybe they'd be 4. Maybe Tampa Bay. Might be 4. But they're like 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there. Regardless, there's a couple of questions I have for the Ravens. They need to get their passing game going. It feels like, how do I say this? It feels like, in Madden, when you're up in a game and you just start running random plays because you just want to see what they're like.
Yeah.
That reminds me of what they're doing. But on a full scale. They have games where they know they can win. So it's like, okay, let's just try different stuff. Because the Ravens have a bread and butter of RPO, zone read. They have the fake handoff with Lamar, or they give the ball off, whatever you want to do. They have play action off of that. They throw it deep, all that type of stuff. They have a pretty vanilla scheme in terms of offense. Two linemen, two tight ends, and they just run it down your throat. And I haven't seen that in so many weeks. And I think it's because they know that they can do it, so they're trying to make themselves multi-dimensional. Because against Kansas City, they got exposed because they got stuck in 3rd and 9 or second and 10 or whatever, and they couldn't convert. And that's problematic because I think that might happen again against the Steelers. So they need to have success on the ground early and first and second down. I think that's very important because if they get stuck in 3rd and long, they might be in for a long day. Because Lamar can get around a lot of people, but he still needs a hole to escape. And TJ Watt, Bud Dupree, Stephon Tuitt, Cameron Hayward.
The tall order.
Yeah, they're good. The Steelers are solid. I want to see how the Ravens defensive backs line up against the Steelers wide receivers. I think that's an advantageous matchup for Baltimore, in my personal opinion. But then again, the Steelers run deep in terms of receivers. Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool. I'm probably missing people too. Like they have a solid supporting cast, and Big Ben's a force whenever you play him. So it's going to be a good game. I'm very excited. It's a litmus test for both of these teams, I think, truly, because the Ravens are pretty good. The Steelers are pretty good, but we don't really know. You can make the argument for who's better. Like I would listen to both sides, right? So who, is one team going to come and blow the other team out of the water? Is it going to be close down the stretch the entire time, which I expect it to be? I'm curious. There's a couple of I need to see. Lamar hasn't shown that full-on ability to do whatever he wants whenever he wants, as he did last year. And I need to see that. He needs to take, first of all, he couldn't throw the ball when he came into the league. And then he elevated to a decent passer. Like, he's trying to make that next jump where, I can run it twice a game and still beat you by 20.
Mm-hmm. This is definitely not going to be a game where he relies on his scrambling.
I would be very surprised. You know what? I actually disagree with that. I think he will rely on his scrambling.
Really?
I'd be surprised if they rely on the run game, though. Because, I don't know. I think Lamar's going to have to make plays in order for them to win. I don't see it. The Steelers are too good and they're too defensively sound to run a scripted play and have that script happen. But you need to do plays outside the pocket.
To the same point, do you think they're too good to not let Lamar run all over their yard?
Also true, but they're missing Devin Bush. He's out for the year with an ACL, so that's a big loss for them. Not that anybody can spy Lamar, but I think that the Steelers could have run 5 in the box with 4 down linemen and Devin Bush. I think they run a 3-4, so maybe 5 down linemen and 1, so 6 in the box. And they could have stuffed the run no problem with Devin Bush in the middle. And then played coverage in the back end with 5 or 6 DBs, depending on what the numbers are. But without Devin Bush, I think they need to keep a bigger body inside, like a Vince Williams, in order to stuff the run. So if the Ravens are going to win this game, they need to run the ball. They need to run the ball well, and they need to run the ball effectively. And if they can't do that, I'm still a Ravens fan. I hope Lamar can pull it out of his you-know-what. I have faith in him, but this is another game. Like, this is exactly like Kansas City game. Like, there's 2 things that really screw the Ravens up. They lose their cool when they're down double digits, multiple scores, and when they can't run the ball. Because it can still be a 0-0 game or a 7-0 game, but if they can't run the ball, they start freaking out and they don't know what to do on offense. Or they're down 10-0 and they start freaking out because they think they can't run the ball anymore, even if they're having success. So the Ravens, that's why they don't win the playoffs, in my opinion. So this is a big game. It's only week 7 or 8, but they still have to play them again later in the season, which I think will matter a little bit more. But this is a pretty big early season matchup, and it's also for first place in the AFC North. So
yeah, I like how you call it a litmus test. I mean, this is really gonna be, it's gonna show us what both of these teams are really about. And usually you don't have those games until later on in the season, but luckily for these 2 teams, it's kind of coming around where you want it. Kind of giving you a baseline. Okay, let's really take, let's put our team under a microscope here and see what's working, what's not working. Because, after you get to, midway through the season, those games really, really matter. But having this one come early, that's a good schedule lineup for you guys. So, I think a lot of the same points. It's going to be, this is, it's kind of a spoiler pick or whatever, but this was both of our most entertaining game of the week. And I think rightfully so. There's enough reasons that we've both talked about over the preview of this game where it's, this is, I'm going to have this one on. Even though I'm watching my Bills and the Patriots, this one is, as a complete outsider, this one is interesting.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of different ways this game can go. And like I said, it's only the first game. They have to play another game later in the season. I don't know exactly what week it is, but sometime in the back half of the season, which will probably matter a little bit more because we'll have a clearer picture on the playoff picture. But whoever wins this game will have less pressure on the next game because, let's just say the Ravens win. They'll be at least at a minimum tied with the Steelers in terms of head-to-head matchups. So that'll be big. Whereas if they lose this game and they need to win against Pittsburgh, in a couple of weeks, there'll be a lot more pressure on them to do that. So I'm interested. It's going to be a good game.
Yeah, I completely agree. Moving on to our underdog picks here for the week. I took the Las Vegas Raiders, I almost call them the Oakland Raiders, over the Cleveland Browns. We've seen some good football coming out of the Sunset Strip there. I mean, they first team to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Took a hard L to the Buffalo Bills, but the Raiders are, I believe they're 3-3 right now. They're a good football team, man. I don't know. I don't know if Gruden is very happy with the play that Carr is playing because he's playing himself into a spot rather than out of a spot. That offense is looked pretty good. I mean, especially with all of the things that happened with Cleveland, like we've mentioned, obviously Baker Mayfield and OBJ. I think this is a Raiders game to lose, really.
Yeah, I like that pick. The Raiders are solid. I think they're underrated. It'll be interesting to see how Cleveland fares without OBJ for the first week. I don't know what the point spread is on that. I think it's like 2.5 points or something. But
I don't know if they're supposed to get Chubb back that week either.
I don't think they're playing. I don't think he's playing this week.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think Cleveland might have a bye next week, and then he'll be back. Let me just double check that. And then he'll be back after the bye. If I'm not, yeah, they have a bye next week, so they play the Raiders, and I think he'll be back after the bye when they play the Texans. So I like that even more without Chubb. But my underdog pick is the Lions over the Colts. The Colts are favored by 2.5. The Colts are a strange team, man. I feel like I pick this almost every week whenever I play the Colts. Whenever we pick this, because the Colts are just strange. They're hot and then they're not. Phillip Rivers is to me not the answer.
No.
He's winning the game, so I can't really get on him too much. I like the Lions. The Lions are playing solid. Like they started the season, they're getting back to it though, and I like what they're doing. Defensively, offensively, Matt Stafford's still there. I'm not worried. Stafford, Galladay, Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift had a good game. They have Marvin Jones. Like they have some weapons. We've talked about it all along. There's no reason they can't be good.
Marvin Jones is reportedly on the trade block.
What's that?
That Marvin Jones is reportedly on the trade block, actually.
Yeah, so that's interesting. We'll see if anything happens with that. I still like the Lions in this game. I think they're playing solid enough defensively. They can stop the run, which is what the Colts like to do a lot. And I can see them putting up a good amount of points. So I know the Colts have a really good defense, though. But we'll see. I'm going to pick the Lions in this one.
Yeah, I kind of talk about it every week. I'm kind of a Lions apologist by mistake, just because my brother was always watching the games. He's here yelling at the basement. He's like crying or screaming. But I watched that game. I mean, my Bills that game. Once I finished watching that, I tuned into the Lions. And one thing that really stands out to me about them is their defense, really. And I think I talked about this last week, but I don't know if it was the microphone set up on the field or if they were just playing with that much of an extra pop. But those hits sounded like they hurt. I really think this is going to come down to a battle of the defenses. Indianapolis Colts, man, like they remind me of like those claw machines at the arcade. Like, when it goes down, you're feeling super optimistic, and then it like catches it and drops it, and you're like, well, that's the Colts, baby. So yeah, I mean, this is I would agree with you on the Lions for sure.
Yeah, the Lions are solid, man. I don't know if they're going to make a playoff push, but I think they're solid. And the Colts, like I said, they're a mismatch of plenty of issues.
I agree. And on that note, that's the show. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all of your friends. Make sure you follow us on our social medias, on Twitter at FTFN Network. He's at Gardner_Nick. I'm at the Hot Make sure you tune into our Sunday tailgates at twitch.tv/FTFN. Obviously, you are watching this on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.